So the season reaches its final stage, and it's only fitting that it should be this wonderful circuit here at Silverstone that decides the championship. The morning's first qualifying session has just started, so let's see who is challenging for pole. With only hundredths of a second separating the first few drivers, we should have a cracker of a race on our hands. It's time now for our first race of the day, so let's join the action.
Welcome to episode 23 of TOCA Championship Mode, and where we are now here for basically the umpteenth time for fucking... oh, never mind. Oh, looks as though this is going to add to that umpteen times I failed this already. Because I'm so fucking incompetent, I cannot even tell which corner is where. And because I think my brain is just physically disconnected from knowing what it is I'm meant to be doing. Just disconnected from all fucking reality that just does not want to associate itself with me. And because of how fucking bumpy this track is in certain areas. So, anyways. Just gonna keep trying until I succeed. Or at least until I know I've actually escaped the first 2 laps without being caught up in a wreck. Which at this point I think is impossible. Because I just keep getting wrecked no matter what I try and do to avoid it. I'm pretty much in hell for trying to win this championship. Hell, even at the start of the race, I was given a dangerous driving warning. So that pretty much tells you how well this race is currently going. And I'm honestly hopeful in saying that I can actually beat Menu this time. Because if I cannot win this race, then the very least I can do is beat Menu, because that's probably the only way I actually feel like I'm going to get the hell out of here. Just having one race where I manage to beat him. I don't care by how much, but I just want to beat him. I just want to beat him against all the odds. Yeah, he went way too deep into the corner. There was no way that was going to work through Woodcote. Well, at least I can say he didn't take me out in the process. Because if he did, then, well, I would have been apoplectic. And well, because of how many times I've already tried and failed this already, at this point I'm already feeling apoplectic about how mediocre my efforts have been up to this point. I just cannot seem to fathom how I'm supposed to win this, and I think the only way I really can win this is if I know Menu has bad luck. I'm basically hoping for the impossible to happen. I'm hoping for someone to basically take him out so I can just outscore him, with him having a DNF and me not having a DNF. That seems to be the only choice I really have at this point. And it really wouldn't surprise me if it's still if Menu has now taken the lead in this race. But if he hasn't, then hopefully Plato will manage to block him long enough to the point of where I might be able to attack him. And it's 8 seconds to the Renault in front of me. I have no doubt in saying that's probably Plato who is in front of me, not Menu. As much as I'd want it to be Menu, at this point, I just really don't care as long as I manage to beat Menu at the very least. Which I think seems to be my best hopes of scoring a championship at this point. I just need to beat him in one race, see if I can at least get enough of a gap under my belt to the point of where I know I only need to finish on the podium in race 2, and then hopefully after that Peace can actually return to the valley, or at least Peace can actually return to my valley. Well, I'm only really going to know for sure on which Renault I'm catching once I've seen the number. But if it's Menu who is up ahead of me, then the only option I really have is just to wreck him, because that seems to be the best option I have at this point. I just basically need to wreck him if I'm going to have any hope whatsoever of winning this championship, because I need every point I can get from this first race to make sure he does not finish on the podium. I'm basically willing to do anything at this point to make sure that doesn't happen. I really do hope it's Plato who's leading this, but if it isn't, I will not be surprised. Well, I know once I see the number, because Menu is the number 2, and I'm pretty sure Jason Plato is the number 22. Well, let's have a look. And yep, it is Plato. Never mind. Well, at least I can say I tried to see. If it was... At least I can say I tried to see if it was menu, but unfortunately it isn't. Well, at least I can say he's not leading this race by much. So I'm really gonna have to go aggressive with him. I may even have to take him out if I'm going to catch up to him, because I have a feeling that's how I'm gonna need to win this championship. I won't be proud of it, but the truth is, I need every point I can get if I'm gonna win this thing, because the more I keep trying and failing, the more despairing my hopeless chances of this championship are going to wind up being. I just really don't know if there's any other way I can win this. I mean, I need to catch him first, but it depends on knowing if I'm even able to do that. Because at this point, I think it's becoming more and more impossible for me to predict what the AI will do. Either that, or I just need to get through the first few laps without being involved in any contact whatsoever. As in, I basically need to avoid every crash that could be lurking towards me in the first 2 or 3 laps, and then I basically need to make sure that whatever happens from here, I'm at least able to catch up to menu. I won't be proud of it if I have to take him out, but at this point, I think that might be the only way I can actually win this. Because menu is just so dominant around here that it's actually been annoying me to the point of where I just want it to come to the point of where he's just not stonking me, and where I actually feel like I can do something to attack him. I mean, I've already been given one dangerous driving warning, but that's only because I didn't think Derek was going to brake as early as he did. But at least I can say I'm actually closing in on menu this time. Or if I'm not going to end up taking him out, then the only way I can really see myself winning this race is by at least putting him into the wall numerous times, or just slowing him up to the point of where the midfield will catch up to him if I don't manage to take him out. Or he could just be held up by that Ford Mondeo there. That could also help me out in my quest to catching him, because I might actually have a shot at winning this race if I do. Also, the gap has now been decreased down to 2 seconds, so I could very well be in a shot of potentially taking the lead here if I get lucky, or if I manage to catch him in time. So we're already at the halfway point here at Silverstone, and the gap is now 1.76 seconds to menu, so the race is definitely on from here. I just need to make sure I do not make any inconceivable mistakes if I'm going to beat him. Just really trying to keep my mistakes to a minimum, and also for me to basically try and catch up to him up to the point of where I know it's going to take a miracle for me to beat him regarding the championship. I mean, even if I do beat him at this point, the gap is only going to be 2 points if I beat him on the road. So it's pretty obvious that if he wins the second race and I come in second, then he's basically got me by at least 1 point. If he doesn't score the pole position point. But I might actually be in with a shot at winning this. If I can just keep my shit together, I might have a shot at beating this first race. I mean, I even had to switch up to high sensitivity just so my car could be faster through the corners. And oddly enough, that strategy I pulled off when I did it, it actually seems to have worked. But still, I am not going to let this one slip away from me if I manage to catch up to him. I seem to be catching him in certain corners, but yet he seems to be pulling away again in other corners. And that's what I think seems to be enraging me. And there's a Peugeot right up ahead, so maybe if it's possible he can block him for long enough to the point of where I might finally be able to... Oh, never mind. Oh, this could be a run, this could be a run. He's gone wide. I could have a shot at taking the lead here, if he is leading this thing. And, oh, correction, it's actually Plato who's leading this thing. So, I guess Menu must be behind me, if it is Plato who is in second, but whatever. Doesn't matter now. I'm leading this race, and all I need to do is figure out how to hold on to it. Because up to this point, it's mainly been heartache and agony, which I can say has been deceiving me with my shots of actually winning the championship. Of course, I really don't know if that's Menu or Plato who I just overtook, but I really don't care, because all I really want to know is, can I actually win this race finally? I mean, I had to switch it to a high sensitivity to be sure. Yeah, there's no way I was going to let him do that. And now he has spun out. Of course, I'm going to have to blame that one on him because, well, obviously, he was basically right at my door just trying to slam me off the track. We were basically fender rubbing, and then once he got up ahead of me, I basically knew there was nothing else I could have done in that situation except waiting for him to spin out, because in my opinion, I think that move was superfluous. It was clearly a superfluous move that probably didn't need to be pulled off, but somehow it was still pulled off anyway. I really hope wherever Menu is right now, he's down in the field. Because if he isn't, then my first position is basically going to mean nothing to him. Then my first position up to this point is practically going to mean nothing at all. But hopefully I have managed to at least put myself in the position I need to be to get enough of a gap for the second race. Which, by the way, will also be the final race of this. Turns out to be the segmented attempt, because I've pretty much tried and failed at this so many times now. It's really made me wonder if it's even possible for me to win this championship at all. I have seen it being done once, so I know there was one guy who managed to do it, and I think he was driving the Peugeot 406 if I'm not mistaken. But of course, because I like anonymity, I will not identify him, even though I'm pretty sure if you type in Let's Play TOCA, the name will undeniably be there. So you know. So, 14 laps are now complete as I am starting my 15th lap here at Silverstone, and hoping that this attempt will finally be a race winning attempt because of everything I had to go through and all the adversity I've had to overcome at this point, and almost spinning out in the gravel. It is good to say that the gravel is there to slow me down if anything should happen. And I'm basically well clear of both the Renault drivers. I really do hope it's Plato who is still in second up to this point, because, well, he definitely had to pull off enough of a gap up when he was leading for me to officially be a contender, for me to actually catch up to him as quickly as I did. I really do hope this does turn out to be the attempt where I finally win this first race, because I need to at least get a win under my belt in the first race if I'm going to have some comfort heading into the second race. And that Renault is right behind me. So it is fair to say that must have been a costly mistake, and it looks as though sooner or later he is going to put me under pressure. I'm hopeful in saying that's not Menu who is behind me, but if it is, then I've basically got a war on my hands. If it's going to come down to me basically winning the first battle as well as the war. And I can also tell there's a Honda right behind us, so hopefully that's not Menu who is behind me, but if it is, then I know it's going to be quite a hole for me to dig out of. Because even if I do win this race, I would say the maximum number of points I'll be able to pull up is 2 points at the most, if it is Menu who is second in this race. I'm sincerely hoping it's not Menu who is second. You know what? I think I'm just going to call that a racing incident. I don't really think I need to put the blame on anyone. That was just a racing incident. I just really hope the lapped traffic can hold up these guys long enough to the point of where I'll be able to retake the lead. And Derek is actually helping me here, even though he did slightly block me in the process. Anyways, so I'm back up to second once again. I had a feeling the Renault was going to overtake me at some point. At least I can say Derek was on hand to help me out there, to at least give me a shot of catching back up to the leading Renault, whoever that may be. And now I actually feel like with 3 laps to go, I could potentially pull this off. I'm still hopeful in saying it's Plato that I'm racing against and not Menu. And he just hit the wall. I know it's possible for cars to DNF in this game, because I have seen a few of those. But up to this point now, hopefully I'm pretty much well clear of both the Renault drivers by now. I really do hope that was Plato who I overtook, and if it wasn't, then I'm pretty sure Menu will obviously not be happy with what went down in the first race, but the truth is, I have to race this way if I'm going to score the championship. It's basically just like the NASCAR playoffs. If you want to win, then you need to have aggression. At least I know that's what Joey Logano has, considering he did win the Cup Series championship. And whilst I can say I'm not always a fan of the moves he pulls off, I can definitely understand why Joey in particular is the embodiment of modern NASCAR. Basically a driver who will race you clean to an extent, but then once you know he has to get aggressive, he usually can be aggressive. I mean, hell, he's now won 2 championships because of it. And on both times he won the damn war. I will admit, I never have been a Joey Logano fan, but I can definitely understand why they say he is the epitome of what a present-day NASCAR driver should be. Although in complete honesty, one driver who I particularly like with his don't give a crap attitude is probably Ross Chastain. Because oddly enough, he basically pulled off a video game move at Martinsville that somehow got him through to the championship race. I honestly think my head is still buzzing over that. I mean, it literally happened right at the cutoff point, where he basically went up from 11th to 5th position because he rode the outside wall at turns 3 and 4 of Martinsville that ultimately put him through to the championship race. Now, in my opinion, whilst I can say that was a great move on his part, I know it also has to be one of those moves that can only happen once in order for it to be, you know, treasurable. Because even though it's probably one of those moves that NASCAR will probably put in its historic treasury in the playoff era, I wouldn't think it's going to be quite as memorable once the move itself has been repeated a couple more times. Anyways, final lap, and all I have to hope for now is I do not choke. Because up to this point, there's been mostly heartache and pain, but I might actually have a shot at pulling this off, finally. And if this does turn out to be the segmented attempt, then it's basically because I won the first race. So, I hope that's not Menu behind me, because if it is, then I'll only really be 2 points ahead of him, meaning I'll basically have to beat him by at least 1 point. Meaning I'll basically need to be 1 position behind me if we're in the lower half of the top 10, but anyways. Heading through Brooklands now, and Woodcote for the final time here at Silverstone. I'm ashamed to say I don't know the current corners of this layout because, well, the current layout is vastly different to this one. But doesn't matter, I'm finally going to win race 1. Yes!
Once again, the new Vauxhall driver has proven himself a winner. Now the race positions.
Thank God. Okay, it was Plato who finished second in that race, but critically, Menu finished in 6th. So that basically means I have an 8-point advantage going into race 2. So basically, as long as I finish on the podium in race 2, I should be confirmed as the champion. But there we go. I've won race 1 finally, and it's taken me more than long enough for me to actually prove it.
Well, it's time for the second
And there we go. So, I finally won race 1 at least. And all I have to do now is just hope that race 2 goes just as well. Time for the final race. Let's hope we can win.